Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Championship. This is round number 6 of the season, coming to you tonight from Bathurst. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Tom O'Gorman. Joshua Wilkie is our producer for tonight's broadcast, and joining us here at the start of the show here is a very special guest, Captain Cotcher, Jason Cotcher, joining us here for the start of the show. Tom, I'll get to you in a couple of moments time, not only because I have to, but also I want to hear what your thoughts are heading off into this race. But Jason, rare opportunity that we get to have a chat with you here on these F4 shows. Welcome in, man. How are you doing today?
Oh, great, guys. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun to be on the SMB broadcast with you guys, and anytime I can help, let me know. I'm here for you.
And we got the opportunity to give you the rundown as to how the production stuff usually works. Josh giving you a beautiful guide of that. That explains why Josh is usually running around like a chicken with his head cut off. But before we talk about that, Tom, I want to pass the mic off to you because we've got a real tantalizing prospect on our hands here this evening. Mount Panorama, Bathurst. There's truly no racetrack like this, literally built into the side of a mountain with history caked into it. It has been run in some form or fashion since the 1930s, and the only change that's been made is to add that chase section on the back half of the track. They knew what they were doing way back in the day when they designed this place.
Yeah, Ron, I am so excited for this race tonight. This is probably the track that if you took away everything else from iRacing, so you get to pick one track to drive for the rest of time, this is the one I would pick. I think it's such a challenge for drivers, and it's a track that you end up racing the circuit itself as much as you end up racing the drivers around you. But especially in these slower Formula 4 cars, there's a huge amount of drafting involved as we start another lap right now with Dietrich, I believe. David Borden is your current pole sitter. Dustin Brown just 4/10 behind. We jump in with these drivers in their 15-minute qualifying session. About halfway through now coming up, and it's a long lap as well, Ron. You don't get very many looks at this place, especially in qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. 3.86 miles is a long ride in these F4 cars. Lap times over the 2-minute mark. That's going to present us with some amazing racing from the drop of the green all the way through to the fall of the checkered. But Jason, I want to bring you into this discussion because thus far this season, we've got to see, of course, Damian Dietrich in this 044 machine, as well as Dustin Brown, last week's pole sitter in Fuji. Really impressed so far this season. Of course, this is the developmental league in SRG, one step ahead of the rookie Formula 4 championship. I want to ask you what it is from your side, running SRG and being the head of the organization to bring in new names and faces into the world of sim racing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. First of all, I mean, it's a lot of work, but I get a great enjoyment out of giving. We built a ladder system, as you said, from rookie into F4 as an intermediate. Both of those damage off, and then into Wednesday night F3 advanced. So that you don't have to have a ton of experience. You can come in off of the street, jump into a rookie Formula Ford car, and climb the ladder. So as new people come in, we try not to plug them into F3 straight away. Better to cut their teeth in the lower divisions until we know that they've got the game for it. But Dustin and Borden and McDonald and those guys certainly do. And the best part about, I think, intermediate is that it is protected, in that if you come in and dominate, you get promoted straight away. It's pretty normal for the championship to get champion to get promoted up, and it just gives everybody a chance to race, where they're comfortable in officiated leagues and have a great time.
Yeah, of course, last season we got to see Maxlin Lotto take the crown, moving up to F3 now this season. Next time out here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, you'll be able to see the action at St. Pete in about 24 hours time here on SMB, and you can see next week we'll be running at Suzuka. Tom, I know you're going to be on the call for that St. Pete show. I want to ask you this side as well, because I've had the privilege of actually being on both the first F3 broadcast here on SMB, albeit on the production side of things, as well as commentating the first F4 show here way back at the start of last year. You're now commentating both of those shows week in and week out. Still somewhat new here into the SRG world, but you've gotten the opportunity to see a lot of Sim Racers Group action, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. I agree with the kind of the growth opportunity between the two, and of course the three maybe leagues with the Sunday League, then Formula 4, then Formula 3, and then I'm sure there are just kind of social events and things that pop up for drivers in the series. And just to see how competitive both are, been a lot of fun. Both being relatively straightforward. You don't have to worry about full-on setups and practicing and super sim lizarding is what I would like to call it. But you kind of just get to race with friends, and Jason, I think what you've put together is really, really fun. Especially with the opportunity for drivers to race in-house and then join from home as well, with your on-site location.
Yeah, that's the whole idea, is to give drivers a group within their own skill sets, much like iRacing does with the officials. But you can't expect someone to just jump straight into F3. So the ladder system gives them a fun way to learn and grow within the community. And as you said, in-house events, the leagues, the endurance team, lots of ways to hang out and have fun playing video games with our friends.
Yeah.
And certainly these drivers having fun here out on track, as we're going to ignore that little bit of wall contact off into the pedigree wall heading into turn number 2. That's always a real choke point for these drivers, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on here in this show. For now, though, let's take a quick little gander at those championship points. Going to officially be done with the first half of this season here in season 2 of 2026 once we are done here tonight. So we can already read just a little bit into who have been the names and the faces to keep an eye out for. David Borden is your current championship points leader. 84 points is his tally right now. Now, Borden, throughout this campaign already, has been able to grab 2 wins. Of course, last time out at Fuji 1 week ago here on the channel, he was able to score his second victory after a win at the Bend earlier on in the campaign. We know that he is a very quick driver, also a 2-time pole sitter, looking to try and grab his 3rd here tonight. James McDonald is currently slotted directly behind him. 84 points for Borden compared to 78 for James McDonald. You only have to go 4 back there to find Jacob Gein in 3rd, who's been a bit of a sleeper contender throughout this campaign. So too has Christopher Yee slotted in 4th. Jose Navas, a multi-season veteran here in the Sim Racers Group world, is slotted in 5th. Alex Schwartz, Greg Meyer, Jason Trantham, Dustin Brown, and Nathan Perkins complete your top 10. You can see the rest of the field lining up there. So still kind of early on into this campaign, only 5 races in our rearview mirror and an absolutely amazing calendar of races to look forward to as we tour around Asia and the Pacific. Suzuka next time out, followed by Oran Park, Sandown, Adelaide, Tsukuba, Phillip Island to bring this season to a conclusion. Lots of fun races to look forward to here. I'm going to put the boss man on the spot. Jason, of this F4 schedule, which one of those races would you most want to hit the racetrack for?
Suzuka next week is always a favorite, no matter what kind of car that you are in. The Japanese tracks suit me personally. The Australian tracks scare me. I don't know what it is about those Aussie kids with Sandown and Bathurst, and Tom loves the place, and it would be last on the schedule for me. I'm just not that brave.
It must be the spiders.
Or
I was
anything.
just going to say that.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
I've never really been too big on bugs, if I'm being completely honest. As a kid, I slammed the backyard gate shut one time, and it rattled the nest of a group of angry yellow jackets right under the fence. And as it turns out, they did not take very kindly to that and stung the ever-living daylights out of me. And ever since then, I haven't really responded too well to flying insects. But gentlemen, we're getting towards the end of this qualifying session. David Borden is currently a provisional pole sitter, 0.3 of a second the margin between he and James McDonald. Now, the gaps in this qualifying session, I think, are a bit misrepresentative, Tom, considering this track is so huge in these F4s.
It's true, and also it's just so much flat out running in these types of cars. You're full throttle for a huge amount of this lap relative to something a little quicker, like even a GT3 car. So obviously down these long straightaways, right now we're watching turn 1 to turn 2, the long run up Mountain Straight in the number 26 car for James McDonald needs to find about 0.3 of a second to pick up a position on David Borden, but does sit on the front row provisionally as well. Then we get this mountain section where it starts out through turn 2, the sweep up through Griffin's Bend, still flat out for quite a long time. Right after this corner coming up next called the cutting, it's a little bit of a decreasing radius. You brake just after that wall apex on the left. Oh, a big spin. Going to lose an opportunity to continue on. And I think this is kind of primo positioning for these drivers tonight, racing at Bathurst without damage. That's something to keep in mind. If you see somebody glance off a wall or make a small mistake, the car will repair itself quickly, and they'll be able to continue running. But back to my point, you run the huge amount of that mountain section full throttle in these cars, so it really comes down to key corners like Forest Elbow coming onto the front straightaway, but also, or sorry, down the back straightaway, but also this section through the Skyline and into the Dipper, finally running through this downhill section into that Forest Elbow corner that I mentioned. With corners like, or with cars like these, finding those extra couple inches up against the wall and finding those little bits of time where this track hides it is really critical.
Yeah, we were just looking at Nathan there, number 5. He had a funny comment in the Discord that Bathurst was best described as a crazy mountain road and then getting on the freeway home. I thought that was illustrative of the character of the facility. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very, very good fitting description of this track. It really does feel like one of two completely different halves. You go down either the mountain straightaway or the Conrad straightaway, even with that chase interruption, for lack of a better term, in the middle of it before the final turn of Murray's. This is still a really fun racetrack in the second half of it, too. Just complete night and day difference from one to the other. I think it is just a juxtaposition that kind of makes this track a bit of a legend in a sense, where you consider just the various different things that both a driver has to do to get around here quick, Tom, and the different things that a car has to do to try and run here as well.
Yeah, it's kind of the pinnacle of street circuit mixed with road course, and I think it kind of earns its way into the conversation with tracks like Nürburgring and Spa for the most daunting and famous racetracks in the world. Checkered flag is out. David Borden still has the top spot at 2:08.6, about 0.3 of a second up on Dustin Brown, who just got through on James McDonald. Look at the gap, 0.003 of a second up and down the mountain for however many miles, almost 4 miles, and they're nearly tied. But a couple cars still finishing up. We're on board right now with the 34 of Rudy Samudio, just working his way through Forest Elbow and onto that Conrad straight. Still looking maybe a little bit tentative to push the limits towards the wall. The other thing that happens here, Ron and Jason, is, of course, because the walls are so close and the thing is just so daunting, you find time in huge chunks. You don't find tenths and hundredths. You tend to find a bunch of times, 7, 8 tenths, maybe in a full second sometimes, quote unquote, falling down the mountain just right.
Well, as you said, the first corner and the Forest Elbow corner leading onto those straightaways, they are so long. I mean, 100th of a second on the throttle on exit, you see your relative just start spinning green, and it's a dream as a driver. You can't believe you found 5/10 down the straightaway when you felt like you hit the corner the same way before. It's a thrilling place. It's super technical. And yeah, seeing like the YouTube highlight videos and stuff as a kid around the place, I was always fascinated with it and curious to drive it. And then when I got a chance to do it on iRacing, it just proved every one of those points. It's a proper beast.
Yeah, truly a beast of a racetrack that can show off the beauty of the world of motorsports as well. That was about as slick as 80 grit sandpaper. But Jason, before we move away from this qualifying session and head off into this race, we want to thank you for joining us in the booth. Hope to have you again soon, and we'll see you out there on the racetrack tomorrow for F3.
Yeah, we'll be there. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Just as a fun parting note, Borden, Brown, and McDonald have obviously ris to the top, come to the fore of the F4 this season, and I told them they better battle it out now because I'm apt to promote all 3 of them to F3 next season. So they're going to go at it, and we're going to enjoy it. But always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. Love SMB, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jake, for joining us. A treat as always, and hopefully we'll see you have a good race tomorrow in F3.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. That right there was Jason Cotcher, series admin, Captain Cotcher in the world of Sim Racers Group of Tom. Now we have got a 20-minute long race to take a look at here. And speaking of taking a look at things relating to the race, let's take a look at tonight's starting grid here. For round number 6 of the SRG F4 Championship, David Borden will start from the pole. Dustin Brown set to join him on the front row. James McDonald now he's starting in third next to Sarah Vase in the number 30 machine in P4. Jason Trantham will be in 5th next to Jacob Guyon in 6th. Greg Meyer will be in 7th next to Damian Dietrich in 8th. Ryan Chia will be in 9th 9th, with Andres Ruiz completing your top 10. Nathan Perkins will be in 11th. Rudy Samudio will start this race in position number 12. And then I believe just a few more drivers left to go through here. It's 16 cars that we have set to grab the green flag. Walker Fulton, Ken Estep, pardon me, will be on row 7 with Ken Glasser and Sign Nathan completing your pack. But Tom, about to get the start here. A few more drivers waiting to line up on the grid and brace themselves for what's going to be maybe one of the most challenging races of this entire campaign.
Really will be. A standing start, as always, for the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series, and a 20-minute race, winner take all in the top 3 in the championship. David Borden, James McDonald, and Jacob Guyton as of right now, but Dustin Brown in that number 16 on the outside of the front row has come in and made some serious noise, finishing 4th and 2nd in rounds 4 and 5. We're in round 6 right now. He missed rounds 1, 2, and 3 on a big championship charge right now. Otherwise, Greg Meyer took a win in the championship. David Borden has 2. Jose Navas has 1, and James McDonald has 1 as well. The field still taking their time, gritting up here. A whole bunch of spots sitting empty in the background as we move towards the red lights coming up and then going out to go racing.
Yeah, just waiting for the newcomer Damian Dietrich behind the wheel of the 044 machine to get into his car and take the start of this race. He's set to start this race in 8th, so hopefully he will not be forced to start from the pits. I'm not sure if he will be able to make it there. Yeah, iRacing going to force a start. There he is in pit lane, waiting for that green flag to fly here, and there it is. The green flag flies. The drivers are on their way, and we're racing here at Bathurst. Dream start there from Borden. Punch out, whole shot as McDonald and Brown now going to squabble up right behind James McDonald. Jumps his way up into P2 as everybody else fanning out, trying to get some moves on one another. Heading down the mountain straightaway for the first time. It's Borden in front of McDonald, in front of Dustin Brown, and now the drafting begins.
A pretty spread out grid sitting still. Here's some drafting starting, though, in the background with Ryan Chia on Nathan Perkins. Pops to the inside. That's usually the preferred line for turn 2, especially on these colder tires, but Nathan Perkins not having it, sweeps around the outside. And what a start for James McDonald, moving into 2nd position over Dustin Brown right at the launch, but David Borden trying to drive away.
Yeah, so Borden trying to use that as an opportunity to just punch out and check out of this field, as James McDonald still there within striking distance as a black flag as well for Ken Glasser in the number 41 machine. Think that may have been for a start violation, as Damian Dietrich has been able to join the racetrack, albeit is down in 16th. The field heads their way through the top end of the racetrack, all through McPhillamy Park for the first time, now into the S's and into the Dipper skyline. All of this back end of the racetrack, it just looks like a very angry tapeworm as somebody's gone bit. That's Nathan Perkins around.
Oh, this is the section of racetrack where you're racing the track more than the drivers around you. It's going to be a big slip for Perkins, all the way back to 13th now, and gets away with one with the damage being off. In this series, another spin for number 8, Greg Meyer. Round 1 winner, loses it at Forest Elbow and resumes the race, slipping back a couple of positions, back to 11th now. But at the front, Borden, McDonald, Brown, and Vase are your top 4. They're kind of a bit of a breakaway for the rest. Here's a look at what happened to the 5 over the over Skyline.
Yeah, and the problem with that part of the track, I compare it a lot to kind of like whenever you're watching the Winter Olympics and you tune in to the, like, either the luge or the bobsled events, where if you lose 1/10 of a second at the top end, it's just going to snowball from there, and by the time you get to the bottom, you're just going to be done for. Kind of similar sense to talk about there as Sign Nathan. Horrendous impact there. Thankfully, of course, no damage here in this series, so he is able to return to the road. So take a look at this moment here. We saw Greg Meyer in trouble. Jason Trantham was the other driver that got involved there. He was punted off into a spin. Unfortunately, more drivers piling in there. That was Meyer who got involved in the contact, initially collected in. There's another driver involved right behind him at the time. There was a contact. That was pretty big. That nearly resulted in a driver ballparking it.
Yeah, that's just to your point. Gravity is not your friend in that section of the racetrack. And once it gets away from you, it's really hard to gather the car up, especially with no anti-lock brakes in these Formula cars. Here's Dustin Brown in the 16, the blue machine, on the back of James McDonald, really tucked up underneath the rear wing. This is the section of racetrack that ends up just being single file more than anything else, but really dealing with aero wash off the car in front, doing your best to just kind of hit your marks until the passing opportunities represent themselves, either through a mistake from the car in front or the long straightaways that start and end this lap. There's a beautiful look through sector 2 into this downhill braking zone. You're off the throttle so early, just trying to manage the front end's grip through the braking zone into Forest Elbow and on the throttle as early as possible through that huge compression zone. And he's back a couple car lengths. I don't know that that's far enough or close enough, excuse me, to make a move down into the chase. David Borden still leads.
You know, I'm going to say one maybe odd thing about these F4s, talking about the slipstream effect that they present. We cover a lot of slipstream heavy racing here on SMB between the Formula Vs and the Spec Racing Fords, which I personally think are some of the strongest, if not the strongest drafters on iRacing, at least when it comes to the road side of things. These F4s, it's a strong draft to keep the cars stuck together like glue, but it's not aggressively strong whereby the drivers can play that huge game of leapfrogs. Look at that move from Meyer, holding on to P7 around the outside, off through the chase. That's a fantastic overtaking opportunity, but it can very easily end in tears. If I had $1 for every single time I saw it coming together off through the chase, I'd probably be able to pay for some of that crash repair damage.
This is Greg Meyer using the draft as advantage up the inside of the chase, and then through the braking zone, just sweeps across the nose of Walker Foltz there in the number 55. A commanding move for a car that was up in the top half of the field at the beginning of this race on a charge back, has found himself back in the top half. Oh, a big moment for the 26 car. James McDonald, is that maybe a cut penalty being served or a mistake after turn 2 has allowed Dustin Brown to go through commandingly? They didn't let David Borden get very far away either. Still some draft for the 16 and the 26. Oh, there was a battle involved here.
Yeah, so they were already starting to squabble. James McDonald trying to sweep around the outside of Borden, heading off into turn number 2. And you can see Borden's small little bit of curb contact there on the inside. I wonder if that just spooked James McDonald a little bit there on the inside. These F4s and curbs kind of go together like peanut butter and high-grade plastic explosives. It is not a wonderful duo, especially if that's what you unpack for lunch. So these drivers, if you're going side by side heading off into turn number 2 and you see that car on the inside of you get a little bit squiggly, little bit awkward over that curb, you're going to look to try and get as far away as possible. So I think that move from Dustin Brown there, smacking that inside curb, David Borden, pardon me, striking that inside curb, just discombobulated James McDonald a little bit.
Here comes Dustin Brown. He's got 1 podium on the season out of 2 appearances. A huge draft down into the chase. Not close enough this time through, but David Borden feeling a little bit of the pressure, goes a slightly defensive on the entry, coming up on 6.5 minutes to go, about a third of the way through this race for the Sim Racers Group Formula 4. Hunting and more pressure for David Borden, covers the entry to the final corner just enough that Dustin Brown is clearly in his head.
We got some brilliant camera angles here tonight on SMB. I love to see it. The wonderful production work, the wonderful graphics, and the cameras. You love to see it indeed. David Borden, your race leader, though. We ride on board with him in that number 94 machine. Still your race leader. Dustin Brown yet to mount a challenge. Now, deja vu to last week, Tom, when we saw these drivers really starting to battle, squabble all throughout that race. Eventually, it was David Borden getting the upper hand over Dustin Brown, who had started that race from the pole. What is there to say that maybe it's the just other shoe on the foot here? Maybe after David Borden started from the pole, Dustin Brown will break through and get that first win. Ever since he joined the series a couple of weeks ago, he has put on some stormers of drives.
Yeah, the only driver to win 2 races this championship so far. Here's some battling in the back of the field, just at the top 10. The 66 of Ken Estep, a great charge forward, a couple positions. In fact, the hard charger of the race, essentially, with 5 positions gained, is trying to hold off the number 5 of Nathan Perkins and the 34 of Rudy Samudio just behind. But the 66, all blue there, gets the advantage up onto the hill for the first time up on the mountain. Hill is an understatement for sure. As Samudio now trying to tuck in flat out through this section of racetrack into Skyline, over the bridge, or over the hill, on the brakes just before, and it's all downhill from here. A little brake lockup, trying to tuck it in at the last minute for the Dipper. does not pick up much time, but the car in front, Perkins, is running down E-Step here. E-Step misses the apex just a little bit. Coming up onto this back straightaway is going to give a huge advantage to the 5.
Yeah, and you can see that gap closing already, a half a tenth gained as they start to wiggle heading down this back straightaway. Again, E-Step's going to have to put on a good defensive drive, but Nathan Perkins already trying to sweep around the outside as they head their way off into the chase. I don't think E-Step's going to fight that too much, and he does not. Backs away, tries to get a small little crackle down draft run into the braking zone. Can't get that move done, but Perkins runs a little bit wide, hop, skip, and a jump off the track. He's going to lose out on that spot and have a slowdown to serve. That could bring Rudy Samudio into the fight once more, as Ryan Chia and Damian Dietrich have also started to battle. That's for 12th and 13th on the road. They've now split up. Chia able to get that move done, as I think Damian Dietrich had a awkward approach all through the final turn, has lost out on 1.3 seconds in the past few moments alone, but still seeing battles pop up all around this field. These drivers, one thing that you can say about them is they get more comfortable behind the wheel in the sim. They get comfortable and they bring the heat with the battles.
What a contrast between this week and last week. If you go back and watch the epic race from Fuji Speedway, it was a little bit messier than the admins of the series like to see, but it was such good action where the drivers are really racing each other essentially the entire race, in contrast to today where the drivers are racing the track maybe 60-70% of the time. They're focused more on where the car is going around the circuit than what's happening amongst themselves to get the race happening. But David Borden continues to lead. Dustin Brown just behind. James McDonald still in the conversation. They've pulled away from Saurabh Vase just a little bit, but still there in the 4th position, just going to pop up in the background as we are just past halfway through this race.
Yeah, think about the amount of battling that we have seen and realize the fact that we are just 22 seconds over that halfway mark. It has been a stunner of a race so far, and it's going to heat up once more. David Borden tracking the middle of the road, trying to hold off the challenge from Dustin Brown as he tries to find any way in the book to get past, swapping sides like he was flipping burgers all through the chase. He's now going to look to try and reevaluate, maybe go for a move heading into Murray's corner. Oh, look at that. Very odd maneuvering that we're seeing there from Brown. He is definitely feeling racy, but I got to wonder if those small little just awkward maneuvers, that's not something a race car likes to do, whether it be an F4, a sports car, doesn't matter what it is. Even a dirt sprint car doesn't like turning as you're trying to slam on the brakes. So Dustin Brown may be rattling his own cage more than he is rattling the cage of David Borden, because now he's feeling a lot of pressure from James McDonald.
Borden doing the classic trick where you just kind of leave the hands loose and let the car go where it wants to go. So Dustin Brown has very little idea of what his intentions are. It's all fair play that time through the chase. But things got very, very close quarters. Up the hill now into the cutting. Oh, so much on camera. Pick up the throttle early and try to get these low horsepower formula cars up the hill as quickly as you possibly can. It looks like Borden and Brown pulling away ever so slightly from McDonald, who was joking earlier this week in the Discord about learning a new racetrack. How the heck do people even race here? As you try to figure out where the walls take you. But now an easy, pretty much flat out run all the way across the top of the mountain into Skyline. Here's the braking zone over the hill. Wham, on the brakes, slow the car down a couple gears through and just kind of cling it through the wall. Oh, just slips away from the racing line. But the downforce and the low weight of these cars allows you to keep the momentum up. It keeps just in touch with these two. Another push at the exit of Forest Elbow. Pretty much equidistant between each of these drivers. Look in the upper left, 7/10 between each three.
And you know, Tom, off the back of what you mentioned a few moments ago about drivers wondering how they could even race around here, I think this was something we talked about last week on the air here on this show at Fuji last time out, about a wonderful clip that you showed me once we got done with the broadcast about a GT3 race that was going on at Maunz many moons ago, and the adventures of a certain driver out there on the road. Have you ever seen Darrell Waltrip being driven around this place back in about 2010 or 2011?
Oh, of course.
It is...
The Dipper, not the Dipper. That's my Darrell Waltrip.
The corkscrew is dumb.
This is dumb. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
great stuff.
That is an absolutely iconic video. This is a geological oddity. And then there's an added clip onto that of him explaining every single thing that he said. He had a rhyme or reason to say it all. I wish I had that with some of the stuff that comes out of my mouth.
It's a great point. I think sometimes we just black out when we go live, right? At least I do. We join the battle again with David Borden, Dustin Brown, and James McDonald running in that order. On your camera there in the background, Sarad Vase has Jacob Guyton coming ever so slightly closer for the 4th and 5th place battle, but they're about 6 seconds off. Contact at the wall at the exit of the cutting. And they're going to go side by side across the top.
No contact made there. Dustin Brown trying to stick it down the inside right through Griffin's Bend. I was thinking, no way, Jose. As it turns out, he tried to go for it, but no, he's holding on to P2 for now. That is an absolute miracle, because if that contact was any more severe, any more strong, they would be done for. That would have absolutely ended in catastrophe right away. James McDonald, seeing that in front, maybe thought that just the heavens were going to open up and he was going to be seeing the race lead just fall directly into his lap. David Borden still making a little bit of wall contact there. He hit Forrest's elbow and the wall coming out of it. Now you got to wonder about this run down the Conrad straightaway. Dustin Brown closing up that gap now to 0.3 of a second. Going to be under 2.5. That drift getting stronger as he pulls closer and closer as they head their way into the chase. Will Brown try and get this move done? He's been so close for so long. Will he try and go for it? Yes, he does. Contact once again. Brown dipping a couple of wheels off into the dirt to take evasive maneuvers. This is getting dicey.
Borden, the same strategy, loose hands, let the car wander, and that time contact, I think, put Dustin Brown off the racetrack, and a mistake from James McDonald locks up and runs wide at the final corner.
Yeah, and that's going to be music to the ears of Sarah Vase, who's going to jump into third as a slowdown for Dustin Brown. He picked that up heading out of the chase. I was wondering why James McDonald was going for that move and feeling so antsy to try and make it work, considering that Brown had that slowdown, has now dropped him off the back of David Borden to the tune of 2 seconds. Let's take a look at this here. If McDonald pulled off this maneuver, that would have been shocking. You can see that sideways snap, 2 wheels off into the dirt as he slammed on the brakes. Doesn't matter what kind of race car you're in, that is going to be a disaster waiting to happen, as that was nearly an airplane accident there between Borden and Brown. That small little bit of wheel contact that went on there, thankfully, it did not send that car of Brown off into lower orbit, although it very easily could have. That, under any circumstances, is horrifying off through the chase.
Really feel the energy that these drivers feel ramping up through the last phase of this race. A bit of contact there is nearly unheard of to go clean between the two. As you mentioned, that little bit of a cut penalty for Dustin Brown. But we rejoin the race live for the battle for 10th position. Ken Estep still finds himself under a ton of pressure. Right now, Rudy Samudio has finally caught him and gone through. The 44 of Damian Dietrich also in the battle. This is 9th, 10th, and 11th up the hill with about 3 minutes to go. I think we're going to get the white flag, not this time by, but next time. Ken Estep, a mistake in the cutting.
Yeah, and he hit the wall as well. The cutting has claimed a couple of drivers so far here in this race. It was just a few moments ago that we saw that moment for Ken Estep. Saw Dustin Brown run into trouble there. David Borden had his troubles there as well. You know how we said that David Borden was maybe feeling some trouble as we got towards the end of this race? Well, you could take that, run it through a paper shredder, and then throw that shredder directly into a wood chipper, because he's now leading this race by 4 seconds. And the gap between Dustin Brown and Sarah Vase quite large as well at 5 seconds. So your top 4, which were all vacuum sealed together, have begun to space out. There's the gap between your top 2 alone. And we'll just barely see that 30 car of Sarah Vase poke over the crest of the hill, coming across that stripe right there. And there's James McDonald, who's now gotten that slowdown fully taken care of. We saw him have that moment off into the final turn 1 lap ago, holding on to 4th. However, the battling right behind getting intense. Jason Trantham and Jacob Guyton as another battle here. Damian Dietrich and Rudy Samudio heading their way off through the chase.
And it's going to be Dietrich through on Samudio. The 044 makes the pass clean as the 34 car looked a little uncomfortable into the chase, excuse me, just running a little bit wide. Here's a look back at, I think, an incident between the 5. Oh, that was kind of self-induced. Locked the brakes up, and unfortunately, maybe the 9 car of Ryan Chia getting in with some target fixation really buried the car down in the corner early. But there's just so much going on in front. It's easy to do. You just kind of see these cars getting away from each other. There was contact between the 2 cars in front as well.
Oh, that was the oddest flip that I've ever seen. Thankfully, we've got the halo on these cars, and thankfully they're in the sim, so it doesn't really matter either way. But that was a very awkward hit. Very, very awkward indeed. We've seen multiple drivers nearly ballpark it, heading their way off through Forest Elbow now. The only track, I think, in the entirety of racing that's named after, technically speaking, a driver injury. Well, it wasn't a driver injury, it was a rider injury. A motorcycle rider, but with the last name Forest, scraping his elbow through there, and that's how they decided to name that turn. The only turn, I think, on the racing world outside of, I believe it's Rollover Corner at Winton, that is named after an accident as well. So that kind of 1-2 punch with that turn right at the back end of this track.
At the front of the field, things have settled out quite a bit. The gap at the front, almost 4 seconds, and I think that cut penalty that we saw Dustin Brown get running wide at the chase a couple laps ago contributed to that, but there must have been more, because that was maybe only a full second cut penalty, and he's down about 4 seconds nearly now. Some lap traffic on this white flag lap. White flag is in the air for David Borden, and he's got, he's got Ken Glasser maybe just up the road in front, but a plenty comfortable gap back to the rest of the field. Just needs to survive the hill. Keep calling it the hill. The mountain, one more time.
See, I feel like it is kind of just like an oversized hill, depending on what part of the other world that you're from. I know where I am in Philly, it feels like an absolute mountain. If I was any farther out west here in this state, I would consider it to be a tiny little hill. So I guess it is, you know, to everyone's own interpretation exactly what is considered a mountain, what is considered a hill. It is Mount Panorama, so I guess that does count, as that was very close there. I believe that was Andres Ruiz that David Borden was able to get dealt with heading out of McPhillamy Park for the last time here in this race. 3 seconds the margin. Doesn't really need to go out and set track day-esque lap times. He just needs to bring it home and smooth up into this position. We did actually mention this. Ryan Chia got disqualified a couple of laps ago for incident point violations in that number 9 car. He'll be classed down at 14th. Overall, a very clean race here at the Bathurst. A couple of drivers did get involved in some incidents, and we'll be able to point them out once we go through our results. But still a competitive field. Certainly a lot of action up towards the front, but as things settled down and relaxed, it was David Borden being able to weather the storm and grab the race lead, starting from the pole. Grabbed his 3rd pole of this season earlier on here tonight, and now as he rounds his way around the final turn, it's going to be his 3rd win this season as well. The dual checkered flags from Barney and Barney 2. There's the win for David Borden. He's victorious here down under in Bathurst, as Dustin Brown going to finish in 2nd, and Sarah Faze just barely ekes out P3 over James McDonald, who pulled on a rousing recovery drive to make it up to 0.8 of a second, the gap at the end there. Where did he come from?
It's a great finish just in front of Trantham, and then Guyton, who has been in the top of the points throughout the championship, but finishing a little bit further down. Greg Meyer, a previous race winner, round 1, comes through in the 7th position, and then we have our hard charger of the race, Walker Fultz, in the 55, picking up 5 positions, well back of Meyer. Look how big the spread has been. Again, this track, it's a circuit you tend to race against the circuit more so than the competitors. Maybe not more so, but equally so. Comes across the start-finish line for 8th, then Demian Dietrich and Rudy Samudio, both involved in that great battle that we saw a couple laps ago. But again, having spread out a couple of car lengths more over those last couple laps. Ken Estep across the line for 11th spot. And then the last couple cars on the lead lap, Andre Ruiz and Cy Nathan. Before we get to the 3 cars that finished off the lead lap, Ken Glasser, Ryan Chia, and Nate Perkins. This is the 91. Cy Nathan yet to finish the race down the back straightaway into the chase for the final time. Basically maxing out the gear ratios in these cars into the braking zone, threshold braking, and then sweeping uphill. You can really throw the car into that corner because of the terrain, but the track does run out very quickly before the final corner.
Yeah, so Cy Nathan just one turn away from bringing it home in lucky spot P13 at the end of this race. The final driver to come across the stripe. And once he does that, we'll be able to take a look at your results for round number 6 of the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Championship here at Bathurst. It was a fun one. Hope all of you enjoyed it here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. If you did, there's a good reminder to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. Of course, have the weekly Sim Racers Group F4 and F3 action every single Tuesday and Wednesday night as your podium finishers head their way towards that start finish straight away to take their photo. We'll quickly go through the results before the drivers burn it down. David Borden grabs the victory. It was close and tense between he and Dustin Brown. However, at the end, 3.5 seconds, nearly the gap between those two competitors. Sarah Vase comes home in a close P3, just barely squeaking it out over James McDonald, who after that off-track moment hang down into the final turn did not recover from that spot. Jason Trantham ends up in 5th. David Bourne burning it down and nearly knocking that rear wing off in the process. Jacob Gein in 6th. Greg Meyer will finish this race in 7th. Walker Foltz in 8th. There's the front wing flying. Damian Dietrich is in 9th. Rudy Samudio rounds out your top 10 with Kenny Stepp, Andres Ruiz, Cy Nathan, Ken Glasser, Nathan Perkins, and Ryan Chia comes leading your field here. Got a lot of burnouts going on there. The smoke coming up in the air. And thankfully, no damage allowed in this series. So even though small little bit of wall contact that we saw there a few moments ago, not going to end in an angry crew chief after bringing home a podium.
Yeah, the space is at a premium on the mountain. It's also at a premium on the front straight for donuts, apparently, as they're all up on top of each other. And just clearing halfway through this championship, looking towards the second half, I kind of think this was the big one. I mean, if you survive Mount Panorama with a clean race and some good points, that's a good bragging right to have. And then we look into the second half of the season: Suzuka International, Oran Park, Sandown International, Adelaide Street Circuit, Tsukuba, and Phillip Island. Maybe the only big challenge left on the calendar is Adelaide with that street circuit. But this is a bit of a, kind of looking at halfway through the championship here, a pretty good hill to start the downhill on, figuratively and literally, for the second half of the season.
Yeah, I'm looking through on the calendar. I'm pretty sure Adelaide is the only track that these drivers have never been around, or at least this series hasn't been around. Suzuka been around the block before. Oran Park is kind of an oddball. You can't really look at racing footage of that place in the modern day, considering the track does not exist in the modern day. It is just houses there. It's just like fully residential area, which is kind of sad, but thankfully it is preserved in the sim. Even Sandown, which I think is kind of the forgotten, like, redheaded stepchild of Australian motorsports facilities on iRacing, that is. They've actually raced there a couple of seasons ago, so we'll be interested to get these drivers' perspective on things as we head our way into the second half of the campaign. Tom, I'll pass the mic off to you to get the interviews up and rolling and have a chat with our race winner. I think is probably a good place to start, of David Borden. The mic's yours.
Yeah, perfect. David Borden joining us here in the broadcast booth. David, you got us?
Yes, I do.
Awesome stuff. So with the win tonight, congratulations. You are the only driver to win multiple races. You now have 3 out of 6 under your belt. Tell us about the challenges from tonight specifically, but also from the first half of the season, as you're going to have a pretty big lead in the championship going into the second half.
Yeah, tonight, this is a really challenging course. As I'm sure most people that drive it know. It you make a mistake, it's all over with, especially in the downhill section. But yeah, I was traveling last week. I didn't get a lot of practice, just a couple hours, I would say. A couple officials today, and then that was it. So I don't know, maybe I got to stop practicing so much.
That's actually pretty incredible if you consider a couple hours of practice light. That gives you an idea out there watching the broadcast just how hard the drivers in the series are working. David, I have another question for you before we get into thank yous and all that. What is the best race car number, and why is it number 94?
Well, 94 is my wedding anniversary. That's one.
Oh, excellent. I love that. That's also my preferred number, but not for nearly as great a reason. But anybody you want to thank or shout out tonight while we have you here on the live stream? And again, as we go into the second half of the season, hopefully will we see you consistently, and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I hope to be to all the rest of the races outside of something that comes up that I can't prevent. But yeah, it's having a good time. Hope to stick with it, and keep going. As far as thank yous, you guys again. SMB makes it fun for people's family and friends, the racers, and for us to kind of share what we do. And also, obviously, the Sim Racers group and Jason and Tyler, Steve, and all the guys, Adam, that do all the administration of the series. It's a lot of work, I know. So thanks to them, and also, of course, to my wife as well for supporting this hobby.
Very cool. And last thing, we had the captain, we had Jason Cotcher on with us at the beginning of the broadcast, and he mentioned joking, maybe not joking, I'm not quite sure, that he was looking at you, Dustin Brown, and James McDonald to bump you all up to the Formula 3 League after this championship. Have you driven those cars? Would you look forward to the challenge? I'm assuming maybe willing to embrace the competition?
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. That's kind of the way it is around here. If you do well, you get promoted, which is fine. So I can understand that.
Quite the compliment, I would say.
I doubt he was joking.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us here in the booth, and congratulations again on your third win of this championship season after 6 rounds. It's going pretty well for you in the number 94 car, and we look forward to seeing you in the second half.
Great. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
All right, and we also have Jason Trantham here with us, joining us in the booth after a nice run to 5th place. And Jason, you got us here?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. So I see +0 next to your name after finishing 5th position, but I guarantee that doesn't tell the whole story, even if you were relatively lonely for most of this race. Talk about Bathurst tonight.
Well, it's a great track. It's just challenging. I mean, the uphill is great and the car's kind of loose, but coming downhill is just, it's like walking on ice. And that last turn, I mean, you can have a great run and just blow it right there. So it's just so tricky. And then I had Ken today come in one of the turns and had a braking issue and kind of tapped me there in the bottom. So on that last left turn. And so I kind of lost some positions and fought to get a few back, but yeah, it was a good race.
On the back foot and then charging forward and looking to the second half of the season. I hope we'll get to see you a couple more times, but Suzuka, Oran Park, Sandown, Adelaide, Tsukuba, and Phillip Island. Any particular track you're looking forward to, especially racing with this super high quality field?
Tsukuba, that one I've had good luck with that. I've won that one before in my class in the rain. So that one, for some reason,
nice.
I don't know, it seems to work okay, and maybe that's my good luck one. The other ones are all challenging. We have a lot of good drivers, so I just go out there and do my best.
Yeah, very much so. Anybody you'd like to shout out or thank while we have you here on the broadcast?
Just the team at SRG for hosting some good races and having some good drivers and some fun with everybody. So, yep, thanks to them.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Jason, for joining us here in the booth, and we'll talk to you later this season, I'm sure.
Got it. Thank you for having me.
And finally, we'll take a look and talk to Ken Estep, joining us here in the broadcast booth. Ken, you got us.
I hope so. Is the button working?
Yeah, we got you. Great. Perfect. So we saw you in some great battles tonight. Talk a little bit about managing Bathurst as a racetrack versus battling the cars around you. What are the challenges? What's the fun? What's the experience like in the car?
That's really a lot for somebody who's rebuilding his speaking skills. I will do my best to say that managing the track tonight was very difficult, but I had to constantly tell myself just to be patient and do the tracks. When I was chasing somebody up or down the hill. When I was up the hill, I like going up the hill, quite frankly. Up the hill is never lived, but down the hill is, a little bit a little bit more tougher. And so it was nice actually to be almost able to keep up. First time I've been up in the, around 9th or 8th in a really, really long time. And so I thought it was great. And I think the big part of it as the race wore on was really getting an understanding of how loose the tires were getting, right? It just kept getting a little bit looser. It's like, damn it. And I think in that last lap it showed, because I really did want to catch Rudy.
It's a great point, and there's so much to manage here. Now, Ken, we have a special event coming up here pretty shortly on slow motion broadcasting that I believe you're a part of. We're looking at it on the live pictures here. But tell us a little bit about this charity race that we're looking forward to, the Adam Estep Memorial Scholarship coming up on May 30th.
Thank you very much. I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget to mention that. So the charity race is for a foundation that I've been a part of for over 20 years, actually just about 20 years now, because it started for me as an outcome of the loss of my son in Iraq. So we lost him on April 29th. We're coming up on his anniversary, 2004. And honestly, one of the things I wanted to do shortly afterward was to create a race, a 5K or something in his name. And after 20 years, it never really happened. But just prior to the event that I mentioned, the guys that I raced with at Frito Sport were like, Ken, why don't you go ahead? We'll help you. We'll put a charity race together. And so, after 20 years, a dream really came true. We have a charity race in my son's name going to help veterans who are returning to college. So the best, the greatest accomplishment we've done besides building a memorial here in the city of Campbell is really providing scholarships to returning veterans. We've done that, basically, I think 1 to 2,000 every year to two veterans, one at West Valley College here in the Valley, Saratoga, and one in Mission College, which is right next to Alltech. And so we've been able to do that. That's, about $40,000 worth of scholarships that we've provided so far. We've also built the endowment so it's now self-sustaining, which is awesome. And so we're trying to find more creative ways to help veterans. And part of that is a gas program that we've started. So when I was a veteran going to school after my stroke, I literally got to listen to the new veterans, learning to manage life, school, and everything else, and some of the challenges that they go through. So we're very honored as a foundation to support our local colleges and the veterans that are returning and help them to be successful. And that's honestly what this race is about, right? It's a dad's dream, just trying to make a place where everybody can have fun. And this iRacing community that we almost live in, right, is amazing. Quite frankly, the people that I've met, sim racing group jumping in with both feet, the first time and this time. So we're going to continue to do this annually, especially with the amazing people that we have that are contributing. Frito Sport, E-Race Sports. I wish I had the list in front of me because I just can't think of them all. SRG, fantastic, thank you. The biggest thing is everybody jumping in to help. That's what's making the race come together. And I promised a couple of people I wouldn't run into them this year. So in 2024, I swear it was the first lap, turn 6, right? Turn 8 maybe. And Brody went off and I just followed him in. So I'm, actually my times are coming back. I'm really appreciative of it, and I think I'm down to 2:13s. I will try to get better because I know right now, even in this league, right, everybody's about 6 seconds faster than me. But I was happy today that the endurance, kept the race going. Just do your races, race your race, do your times, and it was fun to be up in the top 10 for a little bit. And I'll stop talking.
No, thank you very much, Ken, for sharing that. It's really powerful stuff. We're really looking forward to that race again on May 30th. at 10:30 a.m. on your screen. There's plenty of ways to join the Discord and find out more information for that Sergeant Adam W. Estep Memorial Scholarship charity race. It's at Road America in the iRacing Simulator, using the Mustang GT3 car. And Ken, while we still have you here, again, thank you for sharing and talking with us. But anybody you'd like to shout out or thank while we still have you here on the broadcast?
I absolutely have to do a shout out to SRG, Frito Sport, all of the guys that I raced with, everybody here. And then the other thing I wanted to say about the race is we do have a best paint competition. So for those of you that enjoy that activity, I miss it terribly. We've got some good painters out there and some pretty good ideas. The last race, the winner had basically 3 generations of service for his family represented in the paint. That was pretty impressive. So it's, some of these painters are pretty slick.
Yeah, it's very cool. I could care less about the setup on the race car as long as the paint looks good. So I'm down with that. But Ken, thanks for joining us here in the broadcast booth. We're really looking forward to seeing you for the second half of this SRG F4 season, but also on May 30th for the charity race. And again, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity. Enjoy, guys. Thank you for all you do.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, Ron, halfway through this championship season, and everyone in pretty high spirits, it seems, after Bathurst, looking into the second half of this championship.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun throughout the first half of this campaign, but I think a lot of the fun is still left to be had. Suzuka next time out, Jason Cotcher in the opening part of the show kind of professed his love for that combination and how fun it will be next time out. I think that's just kind of the perfect blend of everything that an F4 car and an F4 driver like to have. So as we switch off into the second half of the season, Tom, how do you think we're really going to get that rolling at Suzuka next time out?
I think we've really kind of gone through some of the bigger challenging drivers circuits, and we're getting into some familiar territory, especially with Suzuka, with Tsukuba as mentioned, and some really great racetracks. I'm really looking forward to having, challenge these drivers so much with some unfamiliar territory, with some seriously challenging racetracks in the early half of this championship to see how things pan out. But David Borden, so far, 3 championship wins, or 3 wins to the championship. I mean, it's going to be tough to catch.
Yeah, he's certainly proven himself to be the man to beat so far here in Season 2 of 2026. But we still have 6 more races left to go, 6 more weeks of action. And we don't even have round number 6 done of the F3s. You'll be able to catch that in 24 hours time here on SMB. Speaking of, we have a lot of action coming up for you throughout the week. Not only do we have the regular slot of Sim Racers Group shows here on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, we've also got the Formula V Weekend Warriors running at Okayama this upcoming weekend, as well as the Spec Racer Fords returning here to SMB as well on Sunday at right about the same time as that Formula V show, just 15 minutes later. Check your local listings here on this channel. We also have the Grand Prix Tour returning here to Slow Motion Broadcasting on Monday, May the 4th. That Porsche Cup race will be at Portimao to kick off the month of May for that series in the final 2 weeks of that campaign. So a lot of stuff to look forward to here to Slow Motion Broadcasting. Gives you a good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the racing action. There you can see Spec Racer Ford's running at Mugello. They're running at the Nürburgring last time out, going from the Nürburgring to Mugello. That's like a parent weaning a child off of weaning the child away from formula, deciding to switch to solid foods after running baby food for a while, and the first thing you hand them is, I don't know, just like a singular piece of durian fruit that just smells like death. Have you ever had any durian fruit, Tom?
I don't know. No, you lost me on that one.
No, if you look up durian fruit, it is quite repugnant. Yeah, it's
noted. Okay.
I've walked past it in a grocery store, and my nose will never recover. But as for this broadcast here for round number 6 of the Sim Racers Group F4 Championship, and a little bit of cooking as we got towards the end of this, and Also with that comment about peanut butter and
Flambe.
plastic explosive. Yeah, flambe. We've had a lot of cooking related discussions here. Josh and I were talking about steaks a couple of weeks ago at Winton. So we'll have to see. Maybe we'll start talking about sushi next time at Suzuka. But hey, it gives you another reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on the cooking advice here on SMB. But as for this broadcast here, for round number 6 of the Sim Races Group Formula 4 Championship, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Tom O'Gorman joining me here in the commentary booth, and Joshua Wilkie working all the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.